I feel like we need to talk about Starfield because it's been a while since I've spoken about Starfield on the channel, mostly because we've just had a lot of Fallout and Elder Scrolls coverage to go over recently, but also because I've taken a break from playing Starfield. I actually went like 2 weeks without playing it because I've just been super busy with life in general, honestly, and also because I've had other things to play recently. But the big reason I took such a huge break from Starfield is because I've been waiting for those constant updates that Bethesda promised. You guys will probably remember shortly before Starfield launched, and even during launch and once again after launch, Bethesda kept continuously saying that they were gonna keep Starfield updated constantly. They said that they'd be bringing in a ton of fixes and changes to the overall game, and like I mentioned in a video just a couple of days ago, it's been months now since Starfield finally released, and we've had a maximum of 2 updates, and neither of which were really anything major. The first update that we had for Starfield added in some very minor bug fixes and an FOV slider, and the newest update is simply adding DLSS support, and again apparently some bug fixes, but we still don't know what those are. And there's nothing really major here again. And the consistency that Bethesda promised for all of these updates has been basically non-existent. You look at other games that have released this year and they've managed to push out updates non-stop to fix hundreds if not thousands of bugs for their games. And of course it's not just me that feels this way, it feels like every time I talk about Starfield I get at least a few comments or mentions of people saying the exact same thing, that they're just at the point where they're just not playing anymore and they're just waiting for new updates. And honestly, as a massive Bethesda fanboy, I completely understand it. And while I do absolutely love Starfield, I've currently got it ranked as my second game of the year, I'm of the exact same mindset, honestly. This is the quickest I've ever gotten, for lack of a better word, bored with a Bethesda game. I have like 400 hours in Starfield at this point, which, yes, is of course a lot, but I feel like I've done everything and seen all there is to do. When I look back at Skyrim, 400 hours was nothing. I was still finding new things around almost every corner 1,000+ hours in, still discovering that I can even do certain things. I remember being level 50 something when Skyrim released and only just then realising that I can become a werewolf. Fallout 4 especially hit with this in my opinion. While yes, it's not everyone's favourite Fallout game and it's for sure not mine either, I played Fallout 4 every single day, probably for like 6 months straight before I took a break. If I wasn't at work, I was playing Fallout 4. I even used to take my old console to my ex-girlfriend's house at weekends so I could play it there, and we used to play it together. But Starfield sadly just didn't hit me like that, and I feel like a lot of it comes down to exploration. There's no denying that we're seeing more and more people say how they wish that Bethesda basically focused on 5 to 10 super fleshed out planets in like one star system, rather than the thousands of tame and quite frankly boring planets that we got with almost nothing of note on them. And if you subscribe to me and have subscribed to me for a while, you know that I was a huge defender of the 1,000+ planets thing. I thought it was a really cool concept and I really trusted Bethesda to make it work, but sadly, at least to me, it didn't work. Now of course I don't want anybody to think I'm just straight up hating and bitching about Starfield here, because I'm really not. Starfield does get a lot right. I think the dialogue is Bethesda's best that they've ever done, honestly, despite how much everyone else is seeming to hate it. I also think Sarah Morgan is one of Bethesda's best characters ever, again, despite how much people seem to hate her. I think Starfield has the best cities of any Bethesda game, the best combat of any Bethesda game, and honestly the list goes on and on. While there is 1,000% content there, I'm sure even stuff that I haven't seen yet. I mean, I saw a picture of someone's character on Twitter the other day wearing armour that I had never seen before. I have nothing that makes me want to actually get back into my ship and go and explore to find this stuff, because honestly, I'm just sick of landing on planets and moons that are empty just to find another not-so-abandoned research tower that's only going to give me the exact same loot as the other 5 million research towers in the game that I've already searched. And it's things like this that Bethesda truly need to fix in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I don't expect them to delete all of the planets from the game and completely change the map entirely just to make exploration feel a little bit better, of course not. But when it comes to changes we absolutely need, adding in more places to explore is definitely one of them, because, like I mentioned, I'm just really tired of going to the same procedurally generated buildings every few minutes. I've mentioned it before, but I can collect a bounty in like 60 seconds flat now because I've been to these buildings so much. And I'm not joking or trying to overreact here, I timed myself the last time I did a bounty mission. As soon as I got out of my ship, I hit the timer, I killed everyone, got all of the loot I wanted, got the bounty and was back in my ship within a minute and a half. Even just making these buildings like reverse so the layout changes ever so slightly would be nice. And look, I get it, Starfield is a realistic, or at least a somewhat realistic space game, so it's going to have empty planets and moons. I get that, but overall, it just doesn't really work for me. Being a space game, this should have been Bethesda's best exploration yet, and honestly I'm at the point where I would argue Morrowind has a better exploration system to Starfield, and I really didn't like Morrowind's exploration system either. And look, again, I'm not trying to hate, I do love Starfield, I'm wearing my Constellation watch every single day, I actually have it on right now as a matter of fact. I'm still playing the game, it's still my second game of the year, and honestly lately I've been thinking how it might end up as my actual game of the year by the end of 2023. But the exploration is just a big disappointment to me. But back to the topic at hand, these updates. I truly just don't know what's going on over at Bethesda and why they haven't been pushing out all of these consistent updates and changes that they promised, but it is something that I think we need to see more of these procedurally generated buildings being added especially, and honestly I'd like to see some pretty huge overhauls as well, such as a big red mile overhaul, which I have mentioned before so I won't bore you with the details. But anyway, look, that will do it for today's video. I just did a little rant and obviously wanted to talk to you all about these updates because I've just seen a lot of people wonder about it. So anyway, let me know your opinions on all of this in the comments below, or you can join our Discord and chat to all of the amazing folks over there. If you enjoyed the video, I do kindly ask that you leave it a like and consider subscribing if you do want to stay fully up to date on Starfield and plenty of other Bethesda news. Lastly, as always, a huge and massive thank you to our channel members. The support means the world, so thank you so much for being here month after month. But with all of that said and done, thank you all so much for watching, and I really hope to see you next time. Peace.